twice the number of senators to appoint, the quotas of votes needed are halved. This is known as a Pauline Hanson is seriously going to be in the
now, Jacqueline. I have a lot of friends who are women.
No, thanks. It's good to be here. That's what I wanted to say. That's it.
All right. Steve Price, you're a dickhead. Anyway, let's take a look at some of the more interesting headlines from this week. In the city of Hull in northern England, 3,200 people stripped naked and painted themselves blue.
Are they filming Avatar 2?
Are they auditioning for the Blue Man Group?
Are the Wiggles recruiting again? That's what they do, right?
I think so.
No, that's interesting. You've ruined my childhood. They were being photographed. These people were being photographed as part of an art installation by Spencer Tunick. See, the blue people symbolise rising sea levels caused by global warming.
And the cracks of the Arctic shelf, Michael.
Oh, that's cheeky. I imagine a lot of the men wouldn't have minded a bit of global warming at a time like that. Ladies, don't judge me today. It's just really cold.
You say that every week, Anthony. I haven't seen that many blue balls since my Year 10 high school dance.
It's interesting what different colours actually represent. Because, I mean, you're blue, you're representing the ocean. But if they were all painted yellow, that would be a sexy Simpsons tribute.
And if they were orange, they'd just be chocolate factory workers, or a tribute to Jersey Shore. I guess.
And if they were painted black, they'd be paying tribute to Hey Hey It's Saturday. Anyway, what was
Michael.
Just think about that one. What was amazing was how the artist was directing all the different people at this shoot.
B1 to your right, B2, B4, and B3.
I thought I saw some familiar faces in that photo. Hang on. There they are. Hello.
Well, everyone actually had a great...
I was cool with being...
I've left the... I'm out.
For me, this story raises that age-old question, what is art? You know, because if one person paints themselves blue and is naked in a park, that's a crime. Trust me. If two people are painted blue and naked in a park, that's a terrible first date. Again, trust me. But somewhere between 2 and 3,200, it becomes art.
Well, I've actually prepared a Venn diagram to help us explain this, Anthony. So here you go. If you're just being numerous in public, that's a crowd.
Yeah.
If you're just being naked, that's bathing, probably. If you're just being blue, that's weird.
Oh, I see. Okay. So if you're being blue and naked, that's weirder. If you're blue and numerous in public, you're Smurfs.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Right.
Well, their skin looks like Smurfs, but their bodies look like Gargamel.
Gargamel! Is that Gargamel? I don't know.
Oh.
Continue.
Well, I was going to say, and if you're naked and numerous in public, then it's a bucks party. So you kind of want to be in that sweet spot in the middle where it becomes art.
It's such a fine line. I know
It's a fine blue line.
I reckon I'd be that one person that goes to the wrong place. They're like, oh no, there's heaps of us. There's like 3,000 coming. One guy's got a camera. It's fine. It's fine.
Please don't arrest me.
Yeah, please don't hurt
I
me.
just think it's great to see people come together to make art. I mean, like, how often do you see that happening?
Oh, I'd say about once in a blue moon. I'm here all week. A swarm of Chinese tourists have descended on the Oxfordshire village of Kidlington in recent weeks. The tourists were apparently eager to see some of the locations used in the Harry Potter movies.
Even the fifth one?
Even the fifth one. These tourists are snapping pictures of the houses. Apparently, they're knocking on doors trying to take selfies with the owners of the houses. Now, you'd think residents would be used to this kind of attention, but they're not. And I'll tell you why they're not. This was not a location used in any Harry Potter movie.
Wait, the last Harry Potter movie was 5 years ago. Why are these tourists just turning up now?
Well, these tourists have obviously been lied to, hilariously. I think what we have on our hands is a case of a rogue tour operator.
A rogue tour operator. That sounds like a movie within itself. Like, the tour operator will just push too far.
You've disrespected the noble profession of tour guiding for too long. Hand in your map and your museum pass, Constable.
Yes. And then he just walks away to sexy music. I was actually a tour guide in Paris for a couple of years. 4, it's fine, 4. If you don't believe it, actually, we've got a photo of me. This is me by the Seine doing my history speech near Pont Neuf. Means New Bridge, actually the oldest bridge in Paris. It's fine. So I have my map and I also have my museum pass.
Oh, you started at the bottom, Jack, and now we're here. Are you personally offended? Are you offended by shonky operators like this as a former tour guide?
I'm in two minds about it. Like, on one hand, like maybe the tourists were having so much fun that the tour operators didn't want to like let the truth get in the way of a good story.
Okay, but on the other hand?
On the other hand, like if there are some consequences. If you're fine with being, like, just lying to people, you can make a lot of money. How much, Anthony?
Hey.
The whole day. He's like, save money, I'll do this. But there are consequences. Imagine just waking up to, like, your whole yard full of tourists and want to knock on your door and get, like, a selfie.
Oh, like that.
There they are. They're just knocking on your door going, hey, are you Mad Max? I want to take a picture with you. It's bizarre.
What I love about this story is that like the tourists only ever flooded in on Thursdays, which also happens to be bin night. I love that. Hey, people are flocking in from all over the world for our rubbish, honey. I told you that cabinet was worth something.
That's the vanishing cabinet from Harry Potter 6, worth £12,000. And here's Harry's invisibility cloak.
I can't see anything.
That's how you know it's working. You idiot.
Yeah, and this ring from a tuna can is the one ring to rule them all. That's a Harry Potter thing, right?
It's not. And this little dilapidated old couch, that's where Hermione fingered Ron.
Well, that's just it.
Role play.
Life has given these Kidlington residents lemons, but they're making lemonade. One villager has apparently been selling scones at £8 a go.
Of course they're selling scones. Hey, these are the scones from Pride and Prejudice, actually.
Maybe I'm just old-fashioned. I feel deceiving innocent people who just want to see the sights of foreign countries goes too far.
Far too far. And of course here at The Leak there is no place for deception for poor gullible tourists. And we actually shot here on location, the same place where Casablanca's filmed. Psych! Speaking of locations, New South Wales Premier Mike Baird, thank you, announced greyhound racing would be illegal in his state from July next year after ABC's Four Corners exposed widespread animal cruelty through the use of live baiting.
Oh, it's terrible, isn't it? I mean, where are we going to go now to see animals suffer?
Probably the zoo.
Do they shoot gorillas at all zoos or just some of them? Just the good ones, I assume.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, I watched the Four Corners report and it was very disturbing. Live baiting is when you get a live animal, a possum, a piglet or a rabbit, you strap it up to a lure, you spin it around 100 times and the dogs chase it and they rip it up.
Oh, that's worse than watching cricket.
It is.
Yeah, you know, all those old movies where you see people tying poor damsels to train tracks and you think, oh, they're trying to kill them. Turns out they're just live baiting trains.
Exactly.
They're the good guys.
That makes sense. Isn't Mike Baird the guy who also opposes same-sex marriage and is against abortion?
Yep.
So he's anti-women, he's anti-gays, but he's pro-greyhounds. Would Mike Baird be comfortable if we used lesbians for live bait? Would that be fine, Mike Baird?
I don't know how to answer that.
I think it would be. I mean, that's how he's kept the trains running on time all the time, you know what I mean? Like, sure, I lost my gay aunties back in 2003, but I got to my squash game on time.
And clearly that's all that matters. But there are a lot of rumours as to why Baird... Is he going to write this time?
Yeah.
Excellent. Wants to shut down greyhound racing. He even compiled these rumours in his top 10 list for reasons against the ban. The top 10 list of things that just aren't true about the shutdown of greyhound racing. Now, coming in at number 10, The industry, well, where am I? The review said to go to Parliament. Why isn't this so? Number 9, if you really cared about puppies, you'd shut down puppy farms. Coming in at number 8, just to quick clear the track, a total shutdown is overreaction. Why do you think this is given more oversight? And Anthony, have you got number 7? Is that true?
Yes, thank you, Jacqueline. Great day for it. Number 7, the industry was already reforming and is on its way to a better future. That's followed by number 6, the government just wants to ban everything. Number 5, the government is hypocritical and will still take money from people in New South Wales gambling on dog racing in other states. And now Michael Shaver will take us through numbers 4 and 4 to 2.
Thanks, Anthony. It's great to be here at 4. We have, this is a hastily made decision and there has been no consultation. Number 3, all these greyhounds are now going to die. These changes are actually worse for them. Number 2, this is a land grab for developers. Wentworth Park is going to be sold off. This joke is on its last legs, just like those dogs. Bring it home, Jacqueline.
And finally, at number 1 of Mark Baird's top 10 lists that just untrue about the shutdown of greyhound racing starting July 1st next year is, drumroll please, you are punishing many for the crimes of few. Well, that's what we've got time for, sports fan. Back to you, Anthony, in the studio.
Is it true that greyhound is just another way of saying dog that is grey?
Yes.
Fascinating. Fascinating.
Well done, Anthony. We'll be back after this break.
Break, 2.5 minutes. Just pronouncing things today.
Did you know? The mining industry might not be all it's fracked up to be. In fact, the arts as a sector employs more people in Australia than mining does. For every $1 million invested in mining, only 1.02 jobs are created. The same investment in health creates 8.47 jobs. And the healthcare industry barely decimates any of the natural world doing it.
Welcome back. Well, we're joined now by Andrew Parisi, the venue booking agent for the Croxton Band Room here in Melbourne. Please welcome Andrew Parisi. Now, Andrew, we've got you on the show today because you've got a sold-out show coming up in a couple of weeks from now at your venue. Now, that's usually not news, but what is news is who's playing at your venue. Who's playing at your venue?
The Wiggles all-original lineup.
Oh,
This is... Oh, I love that reaction as well. And so all of the original ones.
Yeah, so Murray, Greg, Anthony, and...
Jeff.
Thank you.
And Jeff.
I just know that it was like, wake up, you insomniac freak.
Well,
Sorry.
wait, how old are they now?
Narcolepsy, sorry.
I don't know. I'd say they'd be in there kind of like ancient, at least 50.
Okay, so it might be difficult to wake up Jeff now.
Yeah.
Legit.
This is great, but they're doing what I find amazing is that they're doing an 18 and over show.
Yeah, so I think, so basically, the Wiggles these days, so Anthony's the only original member in the current lineup.
And he's the blue one.
He's the blue one.
Yeah.
He's the blue one.
In that photo earlier.
I'm not really sure. I don't know much about the current
I know there's an Emma. Everyone's raving
Yes.
about Emma.
Who's Emma?
She does the sign Auslan, no, the sign language. She signs to all the songs, which is not a representation of what I'm doing. I think I'm just
That's
using
sign language,
the
yeah.
Jedi force. I don't know, whatever. But she's meant to be amazing.
Apparently so.
This is
Apparently
the
so. I haven't-
original.
not really kind of across current day Wiggles.
That's
but-
all right.
So how does this start? Did you chase the Wiggles, or are they?
No, they...
It's hard to catch in that big red car.
Well, and they're so busy. I mean, they just you know,
so
perform so many shows. But no, they contacted me. Their manager Luke contacted me last week, in fact. and said
Is
they-
that a kind of thing? It's, you know, I'm here representing the Wiggles.
Yeah.
Oh, you're putting me on.
Yeah.
Do you
They call
believe
them
it?
the
You know what the
Phone.
best bit is? That their email, that their sign off on their email is "Have a wiggly good day." Like, amazing.
That's amazing. Can you explain to us? So the tickets went on sale this morning. The show's in September.
Yes, sorry. So the show is on September the 9th. Tickets went on sale this morning and we were sold out by about 9:04.
So they went on sale at 9 a.m. and they sold at 9:04.
It was really crazy, and we had a lot of irate people, you know, demanding tickets and, you know, demanding a second show and a bigger room and all the rest of it. And what do? You know,
And you don't want to upset Wiggles fans.
No,
They are
no.
notoriously vicious people.
Yeah. Maybe we could have like a wiggle off and kind of give tickets away to whoever, you know,
Have a wiggle
little.
Well, I saw that the tickets were selling for like $35 or something,
That's right,
$34,
$34.
and now people are scalping them online for like $300 or something.
Isn't that evil though? Because it's for a charity. Anthony Blue Wiggle was in the army, and so Soldier On Foundation benefits people who return from traumatic war zones and helps them assimilate back into normal life. So, you know, for these mugs who are kind of reselling $34 tickets for $300 for their own personal gain is pretty horrible. So, you know, maybe they can just donate that profit. What do you reckon?
Well, it's not the
I
wiggly
agree.
way, is it?
It is not the wiggly.
No.
To take advantage in that way.
I know, that's right.
What I want to know, this is a show for 18 plus people.
Yeah.
Now, at first I thought this was going to be an R-rated Wiggle show, and then I found out it's just for like older people who used to love the Wiggles and now they're too old to kind of like you're in that, if you're like 20 years old and you still love the Wiggles, you can't go hang around with a bunch of 4-year-olds for a few hours.
No,
you know,
that's
you have
right.
to have your own
Well,
show.
you can, it'd just be a bit creepy.
Yeah, it's probably illegal. So,
You too? Yeah. 'Cause all the time with me.
Exactly. I was going to say something.
Yeah.
And but
Yeah.
Peter Coombe does the same thing. He's made many a comeback, the old Peter Coombe.
Yes,
the,
that's right.
belly
Sold out
flop and
many
a
shows.
pizza.
Yeah,
So it's the same sort of thing.
Yeah.
You just get to listen to childhood songs drinking, which is one of the best and saddest things ever.
The interesting thing is, though, that, you know, because it's, I'm guessing a lot of people in their 20s who want to relive their childhood years, and I've got a 12-year-old son and who's well beyond his Wiggles years, and he quite hasn't cut, you know, he's quite not across the irony of the show, and he's
well,
like,
if he has $300, he can get there.
like, he's like, Dad, you know, this was really coming along, and now the Wiggles? Seriously?
Andrew, thanks so much for joining us tonight. Please give Andrew a round of applause.
Well, virtual reality, augmented reality, regular reality. With all of the different kinds of reality available today, it can be hard to know which one is right for you. To explain it all, earlier this week, I sat down with the assistance of a chair. Sitting next to me was an artist and designer, Emre Can who I interviewed. Enjoy. Emre, thank you so much for talking with us tonight. I want to ask you the question. I'm hearing about virtual reality. I'm hearing about augmented reality. What is the difference? Firstly, what's virtual reality?
Virtual reality is essentially placing someone into a 3D box or an environment, and your environment becomes man-made.
So everything I'm saying is artificial.
Exactly.
So that's virtual reality. What's augmented reality?
It's the ability to put a non-existent or an artificial object into a physical space.
Through the device, I'm seeing Roger Rabbit on the table.
Yeah.
So how does Roger Rabbit know that the table is there for Roger Rabbit to stand on?
The devices will emit signals, and they're able to build essentially a 3D representation, depth mapping we call it. Then they can say, I'm going to place this object here. And then maybe with gaze tracking, the machine knows that you're looking at a specific thing on the screen. And then Roger Rabbit gazes into your soul.
I've never been so scared of Roger Rabbit before.
You should be.
So is this the kind of situation that the device knows where I am? You know, I walk into a university and a giant paperclip comes up and says, it looks like you're in a university. Would you like some help?
We are never going to live that down, are we, in the tech industry?
No, it still pops up. Now, I mean, we saw smartphones came out. Everyone got really excited about it. It changed everyone's lives. Huge adoption. 3D TVs came out. You know, who cares? So this technology that we're seeing at the moment, is this a smartphone or is this a 3D television?
Oh, I see how it is, Anthony. The gloves have come off.
I'm just curious. You tell me.
No, it's a great question, and it's a comparison that we had to weather as an industry at the very start. Everyone made that comparison. Now we're at the stage of being compared to the smartwatches, which is fine. We're moving past that slowly. We're building confidence in the market. We'd like to get to the point of smartphones.
But there are actual real-world, like, health ramifications as well. You've been involved in health projects before.
So the virtual dementia experience that we developed with Alzheimer's Victoria was a substantially important part of my career. And it was an ability for us to provide empathic learning tools for carers of people that are living with dementia. And that allows them to essentially experience some of the symptoms and some of the, I guess, the effects of hallucinations and things like that.
So could I put it on and live an entire 80-year lifespan where I learn how to play the flute?
You'll get sweaty.
I will get sweaty?
Yeah.
Okay. So what other sort of uses can we see from AR?
Construction workers being able to see the wiring in a wall.
So I'm digging in my back garden, I'm thinking, oh, I hope there's not a pipe here. I put on the goggles. Oh, there's the pipe right there.
There's a pipe there.
Tell me if this is a silly question. So I don't have a doctor on hand. I have someone in front of me. Their appendix is about to burst.
Yes.
I put on one of these helmets, load up my medical program, and it says, okay, this is where you go.
The paperclip comes up.
The paperclip comes up.
Looks
and
like
it says,
you're trying to operate.
And I'm operating as the helmet is telling me what to do.
There would be so many liabilities associated with that.
Has a little checkbox at the front saying, are you a real surgeon? Yes, no.
Yeah.
And I can just click yes and it doesn't.
I'd recommend not to.
Emery, thank you so much for talking with us tonight.
It was my pleasure.
Did you know? Sorry, forgot the question mark. Did you know? Australian senators serve 6-year terms and only half of them face the electorate at the 3-yearly election. This is known as a half-Senate election. But in a double dissolution election, such as the one we've just had, all senators must be re-elected. With twice the number of senators to appoint, the quotas of votes needed are halved. This is known as a Pauline Hanson is seriously going to be in the Senate until 2022.
Hi, Brian, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yay!
Hi, Brian. Thanks so much for joining us. Is there a long delay between? Is there a time gap? A time delay between us?
There's a short
viewers will recall that just 2 weeks ago we all had to vote at a polling station with pencils. But what are pencils? I mean, why do we still vote like this? Let's take a look. 8 days after the federal election, Australia finally has an answer to the country's biggest question. Who won Canberra's cheerleading competition? Haha, jokes. I'm of course talking about who will run the government and who will be our Prime Minister. No biggies. We are a patient nation. But it seems now that we do know the result, both Turnbull and Shorten are in agreement about one thing. They both want electronic voting. Electronic voting is nothing new. In New South Wales, the iVote system was used in conjunction with paper voting at last year's state election. Select voters could use their computer, smartphone or telephone to complete their ballot. This system proves beneficial for people with disabilities, those with vision impairments and the geographically challenged. But a federal parliamentary committee recommended against e-voting in 2014, concerned about catastrophic compromises to Australia's electoral system.
Wait, Jack, so who won the chili competition?
Oh, Michael, baby, that's old news. What were these catastrophic compromises that you're talking about?
Well, Anthony, baby, sweetheart, let me tell you. Some of the issues raised... What was that? I don't know. Almost got an applause break there. The iVote included maintenance of voter privacy, verifiability of the ability of independent observers to audit the election's integrity. Did that make sense?
No. Why is it called iVote? Why is it called iVote? Is it synced to the iCloud?
Exactly. You can vote and you can submit a dick pic at the same time. Technology.
That's the only reason why I voted. Assuming the security issues could be overcome with the advances of technology, the only question left on my mind was purple bibs versus computers. Computers.
That looks like the weirdest Japanese game show. Actually, not the weirdest Japanese game show.
Did he?
I got slapped in the dick. That's what
Can we actually play that again, because you've missed the best part of the video clip.
Here he comes. Who are you going to vote for, buddy? Wrong answer. There he is. Yep.
Aren't you glad we watched that now?
I got to tell you guys, if that is the way that voting is headed, I want in.
It feels like this vote count took longer than usual, Jack. What happened?
Well, the government employees, they didn't want to count votes on Sundays without penalty rates.
Well, why didn't they just count the votes as Labor votes, and then at the next election they'll have penalty rates?
If you ask me, I think e-voting is a great way to cut down on jobs and penalty rates, so everyone wins. Don't they? Do they? No.
Yeah, that sounds great. How do we know e-voting is accurate, Jack?
Well, there's a lot of room for error, and if Australia's next top model has taught us anything, which it hasn't, it's that e-voting is not always accurate.
This is a complete accident. I'm so sorry. It's Amanda. I'm so sorry. It was fed to me wrong. It's okay. Oh, God. This is what happens when you have live TV, folks. I'm so sorry.
Oh, I haven't felt this awkward since I walked in on Jacqueline using that she pee.
What? I like to stand. Really bad knees. That was funny in rehearsal. There we go. Ah, laughter. Just like that shoddy piece of plastic I used to help my urine stream. E-voting isn't perfect, but neither is the current system. Just checking, I'm now talking about the voting, not my... It's fine. For Felina. So this year, hospital patients couldn't vote because they didn't have any papers delivered to them.
Oh, no, that's all right. I always keep a spare with me.
No, Anthony, ballot papers.
Oh, no, not ballot papers. Oh, much too thick.
Please donate kindly to the Anthony Fund. E-voting would be much faster than counting by hand. We have some exclusive footage of behind-the-scenes action of AEC workers counting these votes. Let's have a look.
I got 284.6.
That's just not possible. The machine will make mistakes.
Let's count again.
No.
That's true. I mean, first you get the money, then you get the power, then you get the penalty rates. That's what they say, right?
I don't think we're ready for e-voting. First of all, we don't have an NBN. Second of all, you'd have to update the software every year. Otherwise, you'll have to get this guy popping up every time you want to vote. Oh, looks like you're trying to vote. Would you like some help? I see you've misspelled your own name. Are you after the One Nation Party?
Foolproof. So we don't know. So we don't know if we're going to have e-voting. We don't know if it'll be accurate, and we don't know who won that chili competition. But I guess we'll never find out because we're now going to go to our next guest of the evening. Please welcome Brian Liebman. He joins us now via Skype from Perth. Brian is a finalist in the 2016 Talent Unleashed Awards. He's developed an app on smartphones that can diagnose respiratory diseases. Brian, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Please give Brian a round of applause. Now, Brian, this is an amazing app. So can you explain to us how it works, what purpose it's going to serve?
Well, there's been a significant rise in the medical industry for telemedicine, which is basically using a video-based consultation, much like the way I'm talking to you now, with a doctor remotely. But there's a big problem with telemedicine in that people can't actually diagnose a respiratory illness without, say, the aid of a stethoscope. So what are the 100-odd million people in the United States going to do when they have a medical consultation over the internet and they can't actually get a diagnosis?
Well, fortunately, their health
technology comes in.
Well, Brian, I just wanted to ask about this. So, is it? You say it's 98% accurate, isn't this this program you've got?
Yes, it uses a machine learning algorithm developed by the University of Queensland, and it runs entirely on your smartphone. So it simply listens to the sound of your cough, and the cough contains certain information like signatures that the algorithm can detect and say that's a pneumatic cough, or that's a bronchial cough, or an asthmatic cough.
It's a big
And we've
cough.
demonstrated through our clinical studies that so far it's almost 100% accurate.
If I get this app on my phone, do I need to like breathe in it when I'm healthy so it sets it to 0? Do different people have different coughs?
No, the answer is no. The sound of your cough is actually coming from your lungs, whereas the sound of your voice is coming from your voice box. So in theory, there shouldn't be a difference between, say, a pneumatic cough from somebody in Australia to someone with, say, a thick Indian accent or an African American, or it doesn't really matter. So it simply picks up the signatures contained within the sound of your cough and says that's a pneumatic cough, bronchial cough, and so forth.
That's amazing. So, Brian, how did you develop it? Did you have to like just get lots of people to cough, and then I can only imagine that's the way you do it, and then you have to like work out what matches what?
Well, I mean, I'm not a scientist per se. I'm more of an entrepreneur, but I certainly came across the opportunity to license this technology from the University of Queensland, and there's a Professor Udantha at that university. He's a sound engineer, and he came up with the idea and tested it through a grant from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation about 3 or 4 years ago, and that was done with about 100 children in Indonesia, and it had to be in Indonesia because of the problems in funding due to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So that certainly demonstrated that it was accurate to a tune of about 95%. But I wanted to do the studies here in Australia so that we could get regulatory approved in all the Western markets.
And so does this now mean that like anyone, do we need doctors anymore? Is that what you're saying? We don't need doctors anymore? We can just like do stuff on our phones?
That's what I got out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, that's a common perception, but it's not true because this is really a tool to assist a doctor in diagnosing respiratory illness. The diagnosis in itself is not going to treat you. So you can imagine a world where the convenience of telehealth or telemedicine, that they can actually diagnose you with accuracy through an FDA, say, approved product, which is what we're aiming for, and then the doctor can then send a prescription directly to your local pharmacy to get it filled. So this is really the future. It's very disruptive. It's a bit like Uber for taxis, but call it Uber for medicine.
Now, I know a lot of people on their smartphones, they can be very silly, Brian. And how smart is this app? If I were to hold a
viral infection and pneumonia, and that is really quite remarkable.
Well, it's terrible if you want to get a day off school and your mum's like, cough into this. I'm like, I don't want to, I'm just sick.
Have you thought about that, Brian?
I would be carrying around a box of wipes, really, because I know that once this app becomes available, everyone's going to want to use it, and I don't want everyone coughing on my phone.
Brian, thanks so much for joining us tonight, and good luck at the awards ceremony next week.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian, and we'll be back after this break.
Did you know? In Australia, the Prime Minister's wife isn't referred to as the First Lady. That's because ranking women numerically is reserved for American politics only.
You're watching The Leak. Now, if we know our prime demographic right, then you're all a bunch of latte-loving, left-wing, languid layabouts. Go get a job.
Right. Which is why we now bring you this piece about the impending downfall of capitalism, the ruling class, and of neoliberal economics. I don't know what any of those words mean, but Lance Turnbull is here to explain.
Oh, hello there. I was just catching a Pidgey in my Pokemon Go. But what is neoliberalism? You can't see it, but it's all around us. It's in our buildings. It's in our other buildings. It's everywhere. But what is neoliberalism? Well, to find that out, I'm going to have to find that out. As a latte-guzzling inner-city leftist, I already knew that I hated neoliberalism with its reliance on systemic inequality and profit over people. And if I was ever going to fulfill my dream of writing an article for The Guardian about its impending downfall, I would need to figure out exactly why I hated neoliberalism. I would need to do some research.
One of the great debates of our time is about how much of your money should be spent by the state and how much you should keep to spend on your family.
Government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
And somehow people began to look to the state for their standard of living, to the state to solve their problems rather than solving them themselves.
Now I was an expert.
Neoliberalism. What it is. Neoliberalism is a term that describes the modern resurgence of classical liberal economics as the default position of major political parties across the Western world. Neoliberalism assumes that the free market is the best way to provide services to the community due to its efficiency. According to the theory, taxation should be low. Services such as healthcare, education and transport should be privatized. Welfare should be pared back if not eliminated, and austerity policies should be imposed on anyone unable to generate capital. The individual should be prioritized over the group in all cases, as a society made of individuals and families pursuing their own needs is a society that is fair and prosperous, yes.
And that's why jobs and growth. Oh, I've done the wrong research.
Do we take this money from someone who can't afford it or from someone who can afford it? Take it from someone who can afford it.
Neoliberalism is not supported by the majority of people because it causes unemployment, it takes away services that people depend upon.
Republicans and Democrats alike are now fully dedicated to free markets without government interference.
Now I was an expert.
Neoliberalism, the cause of all society's ills. Margaret Thatcher is a bitch.
Yes, citizens all over had decried and celebrated at the impending death of the neoliberal establishment. We'd had enough of the trickle-down lies, the racist scapegoating, the privatization of public goods. We were witnessing the dawn of a new era of community, of love, of Greens voting and David Marr reading this. The rise of Donald Trump, Pauline Hanson, Brexit. This wasn't a new age of fear and racism. It was a protest against the casualisation of the workforce, increasing economic uncertainty and growing inequality. The people would rise up and take back the power from the corporate overlords that had shackled them for too long. Wall Street, the 1%, the widening gap between the rich and the poor. The common folk don't blame refugees and immigrants for their problems. It's the globalised, crony capitalist hegemony. Isn't that right, Pauline Hanson's One Nation Party supporter?
Nah, I'm just terrified of them Muslims.
I was ready to write my article for The Guardian.
Well, tonight I'd now like to talk about Manus Island. Now, I know this is a serious topic, so if at any point it becomes too serious, just remember that Manus Island is only 1 letter away from being Anus Island, which is also another name for Tasmania, so just remember that if you need a bit of lightheartedness. Earlier this year, Papua New Guinea's Supreme Court ruled that the detention of asylum seekers on Manus Island is illegal and ordered the PNG government to end the detention. So, who's to blame for violating PNG's constitution? Here's the lawyer for the detainees with this passive-aggressive answer.
The arrangement was not in the interest of this country. It was not for the benefit of this country, but it was for the benefit of a foreign country.
And whoever it was, we're not angry, we're just very disappointed. And Vegemite sucks. And you should apologise for Iggy Azalea too, whoever you are. It was Australia, by the way. In fact, Australia actually helped to draft PNG's constitution. So we broke our own rules and now people think we're racist. That's like turning up to your own costume party out of theme and in blackface. Very embarrassing. The day after the ruling, Immigration Minister Peter Dutton was interviewed by Karl Stefanovic. And from the beginning, Dutton showed he was prepared for this decision, nor was he prepared for Stefanovic's sarcasm.
Good morning to Immigration Minister Peter Dutton. Good morning to you, Minister.
Good morning, Carl.
Thanks for being with us at the airport. You off to PNG to sort this out?
I'm off to Sydney, actually. I'm in Melbourne at the moment, so off to Sydney and...
Yeah, Dutton is like Siri. He can't detect tone and is popular despite his mistreatment of foreign children. We haven't seen a guest misunderstand Karl Stefanovic so badly since this.
So the Dalai Lama walks into a pizza shop. Pizza?
Pizza shop,
yeah. Yeah, pizza shop. And says, can you make me one with everything?
Oh, I knew that wouldn't work.
Peter Dutton and the Dalai Lama have a lot in common. Neither understand Karl Stefanovic, and with a 5% swing against Dutton in his seat, he might also find himself in exile. So, did the court's decision take the government by surprise?
The Prime Minister yesterday said there was no definitive roadmap here. So what happened? How did it take you by surprise?
I think it hasn't taken us by surprise.
So why weren't you ready?
Firstly,
Peter Dutton has never been taken by surprise. That's why you should never throw him a surprise birthday party. I will decide who comes to my house and the circumstances in which they will come. You will all be taken to the back shed and kept there until I can determine which of you are genuine guests. And if you are found to be a genuine guest, you'll be relocated to a different party. These mini quiches are mine. What is surprising is that Karl Stefanovic did some real journalism on the Today Show. The show where he once interviewed a cat, planked on air, and tried to break the world record for crushing walnuts with his head.
This is Karl Stefanovic. He's won a gold logie before. He's won Sydney and Hobart, and now he's attempting to break the world record for the number of walnuts cracked in a 60-second period.
That's some hard-hitting journalism. Like Stefanovic, the lawyers for these asylum seekers have been banging their heads against the table. Because instead of closing the centre, PNG has gotten around the court's decision by claiming that the asylum seekers are no longer in detention because they now have the option to catch one of 3 buses into the main town. Sure, they have better public transport than Sydney, but that main town is Lorengau, which, according to virtualtourist.com, has literally 2 things to do. Presumably one of those things to do is leave, and the other is visit the post office. So the refugees can send home postcards of all the fun they're having at the post office. I mean, being able to visit a disappointing town is not the same as having freedom. Braveheart would have been far less inspiring if Mel Gibson's last words were, Geelong! And many of the detainees are afraid to leave the centre because they fear being attacked by locals. So there's one thing to do, and the locals are scary. It's like Adelaide during the Clipsal 500. One reason why PNG is reluctant to shut down the centre is because it's good for its economy. PNG Prime Minister Peter O'Neill, pictured here with the cheeky grin of someone who's just done a silent fart, and pictured here after smelling that fart, he said that local businesses would suffer and jobs would be lost if the centre shut down. The coalition really is the government for jobs and growth, specifically jobs and growth at the Lorengau post office. But it looks like the centre might be closing down for other reasons. The company that runs the detention centre is called Broad Spectrum, named after the broad spectrum of human rights abuses that have occurred under its watch. And its tagline is infinite solutions, most of which are indefinite detention. But Broad Spectrum is being taken over by the Spanish company Ferrovial, and its CEO plans to walk away from the detention centre. So what's going to happen to the men on Manus Island? Well, they can't be brought to Australia because we are completely full. I mean, just have a look at the map. Queensland is taken up by Bob Catters Hat and water parks. WA is just one big mine with an ocean full of sharks getting punched by Mick Fanning. Victoria is a wasteland of vehicles that have crashed into the Montague Street Bridge. New South Wales is just full of big things and empty State of Origin trophy cabinets. The ACT is filled by Christopher Pyne's head. The Northern Territory is completely taken up by Ayers Rock and tourists complaining that they can't climb Ayers Rock. Nobody wants to go to Tasmania, and anywhere near South Australia is far too close to Adelaide. But we don't have many other options. You see, transferring the men to Nauru would be too dangerous. Christmas Island is already a fragile environment. A secret deal with Cambodia that was not a secret nor a deal fell through. And when New Zealand offered to take 150 men, Peter Dutton dismissed it as a backdoor route into Australia. Don't call it a backdoor route. New Zealand is not Australia's anus. That is so offensive to Tasmania. So to recap, the detainees on Manus Island are no longer in detention. The company keeping them in this state of non-detention is pulling out, and the government has rejected the only viable option for relocating these non-detainees. I kind of feel like doing this.
His approach so far seems to be a little bit haphazard, it should be said, and he's using his hands, which I think is against international regulations. This has become a complete farce, ladies and gentlemen.
Haphazard, against international regulations, a complete farce? Just like Manus Island.
My name's Jacqueline. I love Tasmania. Now, you're probably not watching this, though, because you're out probably playing Pokemon Go. But have a look. I've got to talk about it right now. Look in the thing. Television. I'm not really into video games. Though in primary school, I loved playing Shooter Quack. And I also was briefly addicted to Crash Bandicoot. I got to ride a tiger cub. And not in an NRL player kind of way. So when this Pokemon Go thing came around, I thought, what is this thing that all these chidlers are playing? And how does it work?
Who's that Pokemon?
I decided to try it out for myself. This is what happened when I downloaded the app. At first it asked me to remember to be alert at all times, stay aware of your surroundings, which I kind of thought was strange to tell people who want to escape reality. If these kids wanted to be aware of the world around them, they'd be camping. Or peeping through bedroom windows like normal kids. Then an attractive silver fox named Willow says hello. And then he whispered so softly, this world is inhabited by creatures known as Pokemon. And the Pokemon can be found in every corner of the earth. And I didn't really want to correct him and say, you know what, fella? The earth is actually round. I didn't want to ruin my chances of getting a third base or second level. I don't really know how it works. Whatever. And he confided in me that there are different types of Pokemon. And he dedicated his life to studying them. And just when I'm about to lick the screen, he tries to sign me up to do his bloody job. Cheeky shit. Then you get to choose your own style. You can adjust your avatar's hair, eye and skin colour to a colour you feel comfortable with. And you even choose an outfit. Once I was ready, I was given some Pokeballs, just like on my 21st, and I was off, walking around on a map for 2 minutes until the app crashed. I exited the app a few times and I was still having loading issues. Then the professor pipes up from nowhere and alerts me there's a Pokemon nearby. And lo and behold, there was a Charmander. I threw an oversized Jaffa at it or whatever, and I trapped it. The professor comes back, like, where was he the whole time? And he got all flirty with me and told me, you're such a talented Pokemon trainer, and asked for my name. He's so dreamy. So the game is actually really fun, so long as it actually loads for you.
but it does come with a lot of warnings and has already caused so many accidents. New South Wales police urge players to be careful while playing. Players in Darwin have been led into police stations to catch Pokemon, and they've also had to put a warning on their Facebook page. In Massachusetts, a 26-year-old man-child caused one of the worst highway accidents as he parked his car in the middle of the road in order to catch a Pokemon. Look at this pile-up. Also in the US, a 19-year-old girl was out looking the Pokemon near a river and instead found a dead body. And some twisted kids have been using the game to lure innocent players into alleyways to rob them. Funnily enough, it's said to have a positive effect on mental health, and it encourages players to get out of their rooms and out in the real world and do new things, like exercise. And even the New Zealand Hell's Angels joined in the fun as their headquarters have become a Pokestop, which is where you can pick up items such as a Pokeball, a Poke-Egg, and a Poke-Potion. I think just one of those is true. Drugs? So the game's great, but I think we can make it a bit more interactive. It's Pikachu time. Pikachu!
Fascinating. Dogs that are grey. But now to something even more exciting, the internet's reaction to the new Ghostbusters movie.
Hitting cinemas this week is a reboot of the classic Ghostbusters films. The original star Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, you know, dudes. This new movie stars Kristen Wiig, Melissa McCarthy, you know, gals. It's a casting move that's caused more outrage among fanboys than Star Wars Episode 1 and the Michael Bay Ninja Turtles combined. Writer-director Paul Feig is no stranger to putting females in lead roles, and the internet hate machine is positively spitting filth all over it, with trash talk reviews of the film they swear they will never see, and Twitter campaigns against the director himself that can only be described as vitriolic. Is this movie the worst thing to happen to modern civilization? Or are these basement-dwelling mummies boys just crying over the fact that they now have to share their toys with girls?
Now, I'm a big fan of the original movie, so I went into this new one with my teeth firmly clenched. I have to say, it's very fun, it's very funny, it goes very well. I think the worst things about the movie are when it references the old movies.
Is that because women can't reference things properly, Anthony? Is that why?
Jacqueline, you're being very sexist right now. But, in actuality, the best thing about the movie is that there is no reason for these Ghostbusters to be women.
Isn't there also no reason for them to not be women?
Exactly, Michael. You're being a good feminist. Well done. That's the point, because in the 1984 movie, there's no reason all the Ghostbusters had to be men.
So that's not true. Don't forget the scene when they caught a ghost and they got so excited, they started to high fives, they got their dicks out, then started high fiving with their dicks and said, yeah, we're men, we have dicks. Remember that scene?
I think that was the porn parody Dickbusters.
Either way, it was captivating, whatever I watched.
Okay, well, how does this one compare with the other Ghostbusters movies?
Well, obviously, female Ghostbusters have, you know, greater challenges ahead of them than male Ghostbusters. About 30 minutes into this movie, they have to take the week off because they're all in their moons.
Anthony, I can't tell if you're joking or not. I also can't tell if we're allowed to say that.
Yeah, no. You have to remember that it is a comedy movie. And there's also a scene where they're all in pajamas with their hair in rollers. They're in the middle of a pillow fight and a ghost gets loose. They're all standing up on chairs, terrified.
Did that actually happen? I can't read you anymore. What happened? Is that true?
This is all true. This actually happens in the movie.
Does it?
To be clear, none of these things happen in the movie. Of course I'm joking. Of course I am.
Wait, but that all did happen in Dickbusters, did it?
Yes.
Of course.
Ah, yeah. Okay.
I'm surprised they didn't hire lady Ghostbusters like decades ago. I mean, they're so much cheaper. You only have to pay them 82 cents on the dollar.
That is true. And even though it's a remake, they were sure the women got paid at 1984 wages. It's authenticity.
Very good.
Now, there are concerns this movie won't make its money back because women generally can't afford movie tickets on their lady salaries. Also, many of them will have to stay home on their moons.
I don't know what that means.
But anyway, we now have Lady Ghostbusters, so suck it, haters. And there are really positive things happening close to home as well. Screen Australia announced earlier this week there's going to be $3 million of funding for projects led by Australian women.
So that funding goes only to women?
Yep, only to women. Like, it sounds sexist, but it's in a good way. It's a total reaction to an identified gender imbalance in our screen stories. There's only 32% of our producers are women.
Which means 68% of producers are not women.
Yes, and 23% of our writers are women.
Which means 77% of our writers are not women.
Clarification's wonderful. And 16% of our directors are women.
Which means that 84% of our directors are not women.
Right, that went nowhere.
So know what you're saying? Maybe the reason the numbers are so low is because ladies aren't interested. Well, suck that, because Screen Australia received a record-breaking number of applicants. The most received for a funding program ever. That's what record-breaking means.
Yeah, well, Jack, do you think this is good for women, or it can be a bit patronising to women?
I'm in two different minds about it, because in my own personal life, if someone asks me to ghostbust their house, I'm complimented. I feel good about myself. But when they say, hey, no, what we want is just to fill the female quotas of Ghostbusters, I get upset, because I'm like, no, I thought you were choosing me, because I am the best Ghostbuster there is in the entire world, including men.
Well, I definitely feel that the 4 performers in this new movie are the best Ghostbusters we could possibly have.
Anthony, I think you're being hysterical right now.
Yeah, Anthony, that's the 13th time you've interrupted Jacqueline tonight.
And if you could just be quiet, we could get along with the program. Is that okay? Thank you. All right. So if the new Ghostbusters is ruining your childhood, it's ruining it in a good way. Because as this shot of Kristen Wiig on the red carpet proves, it's giving a new generation of kids the opportunity to have what you had. To have your own awesome childhood.
Oh, I feel like I'm in a Pixar movie. And on that inspirational note, that's our show. Please thank Jacqueline Mifsud. Thank you. And Anthony McCormack. I'm Michael Schaefer. Keep watching through the credits to find out how you can keep up with all the content from The Leak. We'll see you next week.
You have just endured an entire episode of The Leak. The next of your dark tasks is to visit our website, where you can join our studio audience live every Friday night on Channel 31. And for further adventures, do not neglect to connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, Grindr, Instagram, and SoundCloud, where we've repeatedly uploaded our theme song over 1,000 times. Or alternatively, you can add me on Snapchat.